guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be on a highly requested topic, one that I get many emails about, and that is world building. Hopefully I answer your guys' questions in one fell swoop with this video. If not, then feel free to email me after this video is over at authorkristenmartin@gmail.com. Before we dive into how to build the world in your story, it's crucial to understand what exactly world building is. World building is more than the clothing your characters wear, the languages they speak, and the shape and size of the terrain surrounding them. It even goes beyond magic and political systems. World building means that you, as the author, have a bigger sense of the universe, and that you portray that in your writing. The sense of a bigger universe, well, what does that mean? It means that there's a sense of more, that you've diligently thought through your world and refined it as much as possible. World building encompasses every assumption and belief your characters hold, both spoken and unspoken, and that means it ultimately defines their decisions, actions, and reactions. World building is a crucial step for any genre. It's easy to tell when an author doesn't really bother with world building because the story doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel real, like it could actually happen. Your readers need to be able to step into the story and live there. A bonus of world building is that you open up the possibility for a series because you have a whole world you've created and can play with. And so really you have endless stories. Because world building has many different components, this video could go on for hours and hours. So this is really going to be an overarching view, and in my opinion, a very practical way to start the world building process. There are really two ways in which you can world build, from the outside in or from the inside out. From the outside in means tackling the geography, history, politics, gender delineations, etc. You tackle that piece first. This means considering economic weirdness, like, oh, the bees migrated 4 years ago, so how does that affect the price of honey? Or the distance between countries and the travel time that's required. Once you've created the world, then you have a better idea of what kind of people can live in it, even if they don't fit into the world or understand it fully. Or you can build the world from the inside out, meaning that you start with the characters themselves, paying attention to the tiny, weird ways they live their lives, and let that tell you piece by piece the way their world has to work. Building worlds from the inside out is personally my favorite method, and it's actually what I use to create the world for my dark fantasy series. Characters first, and then the world. So now let's talk about 5 major things to consider when world building. These will work no matter which route you choose, inside out or outside in, but you may have to switch the steps around a little bit in order to fit your process. Okay, let's get to it. Number 1, consider your target audience and genre. This may seem obvious, but it's actually something that tends to get overlooked when writers start building their worlds. If you are writing a middle grade novel and your political system is inexplicably detailed to the point where even an adult may be confused by it, you can bet that a 9-year-old is probably going to slam your book shut after the first few pages and fling it across the room. Along the same lines is genre. If you're writing a sci-fi novel, then most likely your world is going to have a lot of gadgets and technological advancements that we don't currently have present day. In a fantasy world, you're likely to have mythical creatures or magic systems. Even in historical novels, when you're writing a setting about the Wild Wild West, or maybe even the Prohibition era, you're still world building. Contemporary novels also have an element of world building, although they may not require as much creativity as sci-fi or fantasy worlds. You still have to determine what technology is relevant, how the characters will speak to one another, how they will behave, how they're being governed, and so on. The second thing to consider when world building are your characters. Hopefully you've already created your character profiles, but even if you haven't, that's okay. Sometimes it's easier to build your world based on the characters you've created. For my dark fantasy series, I actually had all of my characters fleshed out before I even thought about world building. The neat thing here is that since I already had my characters mapped out, I already knew what their backgrounds and history were. So that helped me to create the town or village that they came from and what types of animals and creatures existed. It also helped me determine how many regions needed to be in my world, the types of climates, transportation, and a load of other things. By understanding who my characters are and their relationships with one another, I was already world building without even trying. Number 3, create a preliminary mind map of your world. For a lot of writers, this means mapping out everything in the realm of possibility in their world. Maybe everyone travels on hovercrafts instead of cars because there was an oil and gas crisis in the past. Maybe there are strange species of bird flying around in the air because of the new strain of the bird flu. Maybe your world is underwater and your characters have developed developed a way to breathe, if they're human, or maybe not because they're a different species. By mapping out your world, you are subconsciously setting some limits on it, which is a good thing. In a sense, you're teaching yourself what can happen and what cannot happen in the world that you've conjured up. I like to draw a rough sketch of my world and map out the lakes, oceans, caves, mountains. Mapping out your world both geographically and in a more abstract way is incredibly helpful when it comes to writing your story. I can't even tell you how many times I had to refer to my map to make sure my characters could get from one region to another by ship, or if they had to use another form of transportation. Writing down all the facets of your world can really help keep you in line when you start writing your story. And don't think it's set in stone. If you need to change something, you can, as long as it makes sense and doesn't contradict another part of your world. Or maybe it can contradict another part of the world because that could be the conflict. See, isn't mind mapping great? Number 4, fill in the missing pieces. As you start writing your story, there are undoubtedly going to be things that pop up that maybe you didn't really consider during the mind mapping phase, and that's perfectly normal. Some examples are planet selection. Hopefully you thought about the planet that your world exists on, but maybe it slipped your mind. If your planet is a lot like Earth, then you're probably okay. But if you're writing about different galaxies, then you may want to revisit some of the planets or create new ones and the types of life each planet has. Something else you may have forgotten about are histories and lore or legends and myths. The history of your political or magic system may have been overlooked. Are there any legends or myths that tie in? Certain pieces of background information may be really important for your reader to know in order for your world to make sense. Another thing to consider is the magic system. If you've decided to have magic in your world, hopefully you've mapped out exactly what that magic system looks like. What is plausible and implausible? And if you haven't, it's probably a good time right now to figure it out. Another thing to consider is the political or governance system. Are you writing a dystopia? Is there a dictator? Is it a democracy? Are there kings and queens? What are the laws? Is anything forbidden? And if so, why? Your characters have to have something to follow when it comes to rules. Otherwise, the conflict that you create may not be seen that way. Another thing to consider is society structure. This includes language, industry, agriculture, and trade. Are there upper, middle, and lower classes? Is it a socialist structure? Or is it more of a freewheeling, freeballing, every man for himself type of society? What industries are present? How do the people eat? Do they grow their own crops? Do they trade? What languages do they speak? Understanding the inner workings of your world will help make it seem more real to the reader. You should also consider warfare and technology. What types of weapons exist? Is technology non-existent? Are there armies and militaries? Who are their allies and where does the loyalty lie? Or does everyone fend for themselves? In many sci-fi and fantasy stories, we tend to reach a sort of epic battle, normally near the end of the book, so understanding warfare and technology is critical for the reader. I'm sure there are many more things that we can consider in our worlds, but this is just a short list to get you started. Some things may even come up for some writers that won't come up for others. Our stories are all unique, our minds all work in different ways, so my advice is to just map it out and roll with it, even if it doesn't fully make sense yet. And last but not least, number 5, know what information to leave out. A good writer will give the reader just enough information to leave them satisfied, but still leave enough room for the reader to use their imagination. For example, let's say that in the past, one of your regions disappeared into the black hole known as the Bermuda Triangle. Crazy! But if this has no effect on your characters now, if it doesn't touch their daily lives, or change the way their systems work, or really change anything at all, then your readers don't really need to know. You can know, your readers don't need to know, at least not in that book. You don't want to overload your reader with information about your world. Try to avoid doing an info dump or a prologue where you just give all the background information of your world. Instead, find ways to discreetly weave it into your story. It will make it more believable, and your reader will feel as though they're experiencing all the facets of your world along with your characters, which is exactly what you want. So there you have it, an overarching view and practical guide to world building. If you like the content today, please thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Both of my books, The Alpha Drive and The Order of Omega, are available for purchase on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, The Book Depository, and Books A Million. You can also order signed copies. All of the links are in the description box below. I will be attending BookCon June 3rd and June 4th in New York City this year. I will have a table where I'll be selling and signing copies of my books, so please stop by because I would love to meet you in person. I have teamed up with Audible, the premier provider of digital audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from, to give you guys some free stuff. If you go to audibletrial.com/KristenMartinBooks, then you can get a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial for their service. My books are not yet available in audiobook format, but this is something I'm working on for the future. If you didn't already know, I have opened up a Society 6 store where you can get some neat #AuthorLife goodies, such as mugs, laptop sleeves, cases, pillows, and the like. Head on over to society6.com/author Kristen Martin to check it out. I will leave the link in the description box below. And if you're not already following me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, make sure you do that for daily writing inspiration and advice, as well as to stay up to date on any price promotions or giveaways that might be going on. If you have any questions or anything you'd like me to talk about in one of my next videos, feel free to tweet at me at @authorKristenM, or you can leave a comment down below. You can also ask a question or post a comment anonymously on my Ask Me Anything page on Tumblr. Again, all the links are listed below. Thank you so much again for watching. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel on your way out. I post new videos on Tuesdays. I will see you guys next time. Bye. World building, world building. We're gonna build some worlds. Worlds. My voice is cutting in and out. I think I need some water. Not good, not good. Galaxies. Galaxy. Galaxy. That's a fun word. Galaxies. Meow. We're gonna build some worlds. A world with no dogs. Ow, your nail is so sharp. We're gonna build some worlds. Worlds, worlds, worlds. Worlds with no dogs and lots of catnip. You like this song? Should I keep going? We're gonna build some worlds with laser pointers. Lots of catnip and things I can scratch. I'll have the longest nails in the world. Boom goes the dynamite. Oh, perfect, perfect. Bye.